Aloha, everybody. This is Dr. Steve, and this is Chapter 11 from the textbook Web Development Design Foundations with HTML5. This chapter is on web, multimedia, and interactivity. Okay, there are several things here that we want to take some time with. We're going to describe the purpose of plugins, helper applications, and media containers, and codecs. Describe types of multimedia files. Configure hyperlinks to multimedia files, configure audio and video, this is a big one, on web pages, describe features and common uses of Flash, JavaScript, Java, Ajax, and jQuery. Configure a web animation, describe how to configure a Java applet, describe an interactive image gallery, yes, this is cool. Configure a widget, configure the CSS3 transform and transition properties, also very cool. Describe the purpose of geolocation, etc. Okay, I'll try to get us through this in a reasonable amount of time. Helper applications. A program that's designed to handle particular file types, such as a WAV or MPG. You might find, what do they use? On Windows, it might be one application. In an Apple, a Mac could be a different application. It's pretty common, but something has to help the browser make sense of these files. So a container is designated by the file extension, contains the media and the metadata. Important thing there. Codec, this is important. The algorithm used to compress the media. Codec compression, decompression. Okay, so this is important. You might be able to create something, an audio or video file, but nobody can read it if they don't have the proper codec. So got to pay some attention here. So the common plugins that are used are Flash Player, Adobe Reader, Windows Media, and QuickTime. We're going to avoid Adobe as much as possible, but Windows Media Player and QuickTime we will use extensively. Some common audio files are .wav, they're huge. AAFF, MID, AU, MP3, which I'm sure you're fairly familiar with. The OGG, the open source, and the M4A. We're going to pay more attention probably to MP3 than anything else. Some video files, .move, .avi, MV, WMV, FLV, MPG, MP4, OG4, OGV. We're going to look a lot at MP4, I think, and MPG. AVI is again really big. Copyright issues, everything, assume it's copyrighted. If we're using it here in this class, we can get away with it through fair use. But if you're using it out in industry, you need to pay attention to copyright. Okay, so one really super easy way the most basic ways is to create a hyperlink to a web file, to a multimedia file. So you can create to the WDF podcast.mp3 by just doing this ahref kind of link. This is super easy. This is kind of the backup if you can't do anything else. We're going to do lots of other stuff. In any case, if you're doing audio or video, you need to provide some help, maybe a transcript or captions or something in text format for the screen readers. Flash, created by Adobe. It's kind of on the way out. HTML5 is kind of supplanting Flash. Flash movies are generally saved in a SWIFT file, WSF shockwave file. They're good, but there are a lot of problems now. And as I said, they're kind of on their way out. If you were to embed a Flash element, you would do so as shown on this slide in this deck. I'm not going to pay too much attention to this. You should be able to list some common browsers, describe issues involved with adding media, describe advantage of Flash. Well, no, sorry, disadvantage. It's on its way out. I'll give you the answer. Okay, audio. Let's deal with the HTML5 audio and source elements. Okay, this is the way you want to do an audio. So here you have the audio tag controls equals controls. That means yes, turn it on. You're adding the source. The first one you're going to do is probably an MP3, and then the second one is, if you don't have MP3, use this .ogg. Now, if you're doing this, you of course need to have those files in your on your server. And then the backup here, notice this backup is ahref here. This is if it doesn't understand the HTML5, it will just create a link to that audio file. And the same is true here with the video. Video controls equals controls. Poster, this is a new thing with HTML5. The first frame you can change. You can put information on there, you know, your credits if you like. In any case, you need some sort of a file, a JPEG or PNG usually works well. Then you have your source files, the MV4, sorry, the M4V is here listed as first. The second one is the OGV, that's the open source. And then again, the link directly to the sparky.mov file if the browser doesn't understand the video tag. Now, other super cool stuff is the CSS drop-down menu. This is such a big help now. You can configure your nav, and we're going to look at this in the second walkthrough of the files. Basically, you're having a couple, two, you can have three, as many layers as you like, really, of menus. Basically, it's just configuring the sub-menus UL elements to not display initially, but to only display when you're hovering over the parent. It's very nice. I'm sure you will like this. Transform property, also really nice. Here you see it's rotated 3 degrees. You see that little lighthouse is off on an angle. Very cool thing to do. Adds a nice little touch. Transition property adds a little animation, if you will, to it. You can hear that 2-second, 2S is seconds. It will create some fades or linear transitions, whatever you want to do. There's several options here. Very cool. We'll look at that as well. Summary elements, if you want to, again, hide things. This is another easy way. This is a really, really nice way of including extra information in your page, and let the user decide if he or she wants to view it or not. Image gallery, this is a much better gallery than we looked at earlier. You'll see here all you're doing is putting the span in and showing and not showing, right? We show it and don't show. Opacity is 0, then we transition it in, so ease in. Very nice, very cool. We'll look at this later. Java, we're probably not going to be doing too much here in Java, although Java is something that can be easily inserted into a web page, and you might be using Java more in virtual machines, more so than on a web page, and you'll look at that in other classes. The applets, yeah, it talks about the Java machines. I'm really not going to spend much time on this in this class. It's done kind of the same way. Instead of embed, you use the object type. But again, I don't want to deal with that in this class. Checkpoint, you should know how to use the HTML5 video and audio tags. Transform, very cool. Java applets are going to be a pain in the butt. Basically, that's a disadvantage. JavaScript, however, is very cool. It is built to work in web pages. JavaScript is not Java. It is not Java Lite. It is an unfortunate similar name. But you can manipulate anything you want to in the document. We have what's called the DOM, the Document Object Model, we'll be looking at. And we do that with JavaScript, with jQuery, with jQuery Mobile. Great fun. You'll use it a lot. You can display message boxes. You can do other kinds of navigation, edit and validate form information, create new windows, do image rollovers, do status messages, calculations, and so on. This is the most important thing to get out of JavaScript, which is called the DOM, the Document Object Model. It's seeing everything as an object and being able to insert it inside of something, and by identifying it as an object, you can address it and you can manipulate it. That's the main thing, the manipulation. Ajax is not really a technology in and of itself. It's kind of a mash of technologies, asynchronous, JavaScript, and XML. It's putting things together. Still used I'd say JSON is probably used even more these days in getting data. jQuery, I think, still pretty big. Some people say it's on its way out. I don't know. jQuery is basically a framework for our library, if you will, for simplifying JavaScript. Um, it's very nice. We'll explore that a little bit in this class, more so in other classes. Here we're going to do a jQuery um, slideshow, if you will, and you'll see that when we get into the data files walkthrough. An API, we're just trying to figure out how to connect different application program interface. It just connects different things to the web page, different technologies, different languages, and so on. It really creates this wonderful tech world we live in. Geolocation is one of those items. It's used often in your phones. Web storage, we can store, besides cookies, we can store other little things called local storage. What else we have here? Okay, well, look a tiny bit at this. You can get more examples at the publisher's website here on /storage. Offline applications. Again, this is some of that API stuff. We're not going to touch it too much. Canvas element is excellent, but really don't try to code it yourself. Have another program that does the coding. It can be rather complicated. Here's an example of the code here where it's drawing something. You can see the code. It's a little more complicated than you might want to deal with, but you can manipulate a lot of the screen elements very nicely. Okay, you should understand a couple uses of JavaScript, understand Ajax, understand a little bit about Canvas. Okay, the multimedia does a lot of things, but one important thing you need to do is still provide accessibility. So you need to make sure that other people who need help can still access that multimedia. And that's about it, guys. That was a quick run through. Let's take a look at the student data files, and of course, be sure to read the chapter. Aloha.